How can we accept the transient nature of all things without falling into despair? The reality of impermanence is one of the most challenging aspects of life to come to terms with. Everything we encounter, from the smallest moments of joy to the grandest achievements, is subject to the passage of time. Nothing remains unchanged, and the inevitability of this truth can be daunting. But how do we accept the transient nature of all things without slipping into despair? This question lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, which offers a path to understanding and embracing impermanence in a way that fosters resilience, peace, and a deeper appreciation for life itself. We begin by recognizing that impermanence is not a flaw in the design of life, but rather a fundamental characteristic of existence. Everything we see, touch, and experience is in a constant state of flux. This continuous change is what gives life its dynamic quality. It is what allows for growth, evolution, and the unfolding of new possibilities. The Stoics teach us that by accepting this, we can shift our focus from resisting change to understanding how to navigate it with wisdom and grace. One of the key insights in Stoic thought is that our suffering often arises not from the events themselves, but from our attachment to the idea that things should remain the same. We cling to the past or project our desires onto the future, and when reality does not conform to our expectations, we experience disappointment and frustration. But what if we could let go of these attachments? What if we could approach life with the understanding that change is not only inevitable, but also necessary for our growth? The Stoics encourage us to cultivate a mindset that is rooted in acceptance rather than resistance. Acceptance does not mean passivity or indifference. It means acknowledging the reality of impermanence and choosing to engage with it in a constructive way. When we accept that all things are temporary, we free ourselves from the illusion of permanence and open ourselves to the richness of the present moment. We learn to appreciate what we have while we have it, without the fear of losing it. This acceptance also allows us to develop a sense of inner stability that is not dependent on external circumstances. If we base our happiness on things that are bound to change, such as material possessions, relationships, or even our own physical abilities, we set ourselves up for inevitable disappointment. But if we can find contentment within ourselves by cultivating virtues like wisdom, courage, and integrity, we create a foundation that remains steady even as the world around us changes. Moreover, the Stoic approach to impermanence involves a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. When we recognize that everything is part of a larger, ever-changing whole, we begin to see our experiences in a new light. We understand that our joys and sorrows are not isolated events, but part of the broader tapestry of life. This perspective can help us to accept loss and change with a sense of peace, knowing that everything has its place and time. This understanding leads us to the realization that impermanence can be a source of liberation rather than despair. When we stop trying to hold on to what cannot be held, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. We become more flexible, more adaptable, and more capable of finding meaning in every phase of life. This flexibility is a hallmark of Stoic resilience, the ability to remain grounded and clear-minded no matter what changes we face. As we reflect on these ideas, it is important to consider how we might apply them in our own lives. How do we typically respond to change? Do we resist it, or do we embrace it as an opportunity for growth? Can we learn to let go of our attachments and find peace in the understanding that nothing lasts forever? These are questions that each of us must answer for ourselves, and in doing so, we can begin to transform our relationship with impermanence from one of fear to one of acceptance and empowerment. The transformative power of embracing impermanence. As we deepen our exploration of impermanence, we come to understand that the fleeting nature of all things is not just a challenge to be accepted, but a profound teacher that can guide us toward a more meaningful and fulfilling life. The Stoics believed that impermanence is a fundamental aspect of existence, that, when properly understood, can lead us to greater wisdom and inner strength. Instead of resisting the inevitable changes that life brings, we can learn to embrace them as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. One of the most important lessons that impermanence teaches us is the value of presence. When we recognize that nothing lasts forever, we begin to see the importance of being fully present in each moment. This awareness can transform the way we experience life. Instead of being caught up in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future, we can focus our attention on the here and now, appreciating the beauty and significance of each passing moment. This practice of mindfulness allows us to engage with life more deeply, to savor the joys, and even to find meaning in the challenges. In embracing impermanence, we also learn to prioritize what truly matters. When we understand that our time is limited, we are more likely to focus on the things that bring us lasting fulfillment, rather than getting caught up in trivial pursuits. This awareness helps us to make more intentional choices, to spend our time and energy on the people, activities, and goals that align with our deepest values. By letting go of what is superficial or temporary, we can create a life that is rich in purpose and meaning. The Stoics also teach us that impermanence can be a powerful motivator for living with integrity. Knowing that our actions have consequences, not just in the present, but also in the legacy we leave behind, encourages us to live in a way that reflects our highest ideals. When we accept that everything is temporary, we are reminded that the impact we have on others and the world around us is what truly endures. This perspective challenges us to act with kindness, wisdom, and courage, knowing that these virtues will outlast our physical existence. At the same time, embracing impermanence requires us to develop a sense of detachment. This detachment is not about withdrawing from life or becoming indifferent to its joys and sorrows. Rather, it is about cultivating a healthy relationship with the things and people we care about, understanding that they are not ours to keep forever. This perspective allows us to love more fully and deeply, without the fear of losing what we love. We learn to appreciate the temporary nature of our connections, recognizing that their impermanence is what makes them precious. However, this acceptance of impermanence also brings us face to face with the reality of loss. The Stoics do not shy away from the fact that life involves loss, of loved ones, of opportunities, of health, and ultimately, of life itself. But they also remind us that loss is not the end, but a part of the natural cycle of life. By accepting loss as an inevitable part of existence, we can learn to face it with grace and resilience. We can find comfort in the knowledge that, while everything changes, the experiences we have and the love we share continue to shape who we are, even after they are gone. As we reflect on these ideas, it is worth considering how they might apply to our own lives. How often do we resist change, clinging to what is familiar out of fear of the unknown? How might our lives be different if we could embrace the transient nature of all things, seeing each moment as an opportunity to grow, to love, and to live with greater awareness? Could it be that by accepting impermanence, we open ourselves up to a deeper and more authentic experience of life? Building resilience and finding strength in impermanence. As we continue our reflection on impermanence, we begin to see that this understanding is not just about accepting the inevitability of change, but also about finding strength and resilience within it. The Stoics teach us that impermanence is a reminder of our own inner resources, the capacities we have to adapt, to endure, and to grow. In recognizing that everything is in flux, we are encouraged to cultivate qualities within ourselves that remain steadfast regardless of the external changes we encounter. One of the most profound insights from Stoic philosophy is the idea that while we cannot control the world around us, we can control how we respond to it. This principle is especially powerful when applied to the concept of impermanence. When we understand that change is inevitable, we can prepare ourselves to meet it with a calm and steady mind. This preparation is not about trying to prevent change or avoid loss, but about building the resilience to navigate these experiences without being overwhelmed by them. This resilience comes from a deep understanding of what is truly within our control. The Stoics remind us that our thoughts, our attitudes, and our actions are always within our grasp, even when everything else is uncertain. By focusing on these internal aspects of our lives, we can develop a sense of inner stability that is not dependent on external circumstances. This inner stability allows us to face impermanence with confidence, knowing that while we may not be able to control what happens, we can always control how we respond. Another important aspect of embracing impermanence is the cultivation of gratitude. When we recognize that nothing lasts forever, we become more aware of the value of the present moment and the things we currently have. This awareness fosters a deep sense of gratitude for the experiences, relationships, and opportunities that come our way. Instead of taking things for granted or constantly seeking more, we learn to appreciate what we have, knowing that it is not permanent. This gratitude does not diminish the reality of change, but it does help us to approach it with a positive and open heart. Furthermore, impermanence teaches us the importance of flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and the ability to adapt to new circumstances is crucial for our well-being. The Stoics emphasize the value of being flexible in our thinking and our actions, allowing us to adjust to changes without losing our sense of direction. This flexibility is not about being passive or aimless, but about being responsive to the shifting nature of life. It enables us to move with the flow of events, rather than being rigidly attached to a specific outcome. In addition to flexibility, impermanence calls us to cultivate a sense of purpose that transcends the temporary. The Stoics believe that living in accordance with our highest values is the key to a meaningful life. When we focus on what is truly important, such as integrity, compassion, and wisdom, we create a foundation that remains solid, even as the world around us changes. This sense of purpose gives us direction and strength, helping us to navigate the challenges of impermanence without losing sight of what really matters. As we consider these ideas, it is essential to reflect on how we might integrate them into our daily lives. How can we cultivate resilience in the face of change? What practices can we adopt to strengthen our inner stability and flexibility? And how can we ensure that our sense of purpose remains clear and unwavering, even as the world around us shifts and evolves? In embracing impermanence, we are not just accepting the reality of change. We are actively engaging with it in a way that empowers us to live more fully and authentically. By developing resilience, gratitude, flexibility, and purpose, we can face the transient nature of all things without falling into despair. Instead, we can find in impermanence a source of strength, wisdom, and even joy as we learn to navigate the ever-changing landscape of life with grace and confidence. Liberation through embracing life's transience. As we reach the final stage of our exploration into the nature of impermanence, we begin to see that the acceptance of life's transient nature is not merely about coping with change, but about finding a profound sense of liberation and peace within it. The Stoics understood that true freedom comes not from the absence of change, but from our ability to navigate it without losing our sense of self or purpose. In this way, impermanence becomes not a source of fear, but a gateway to living with greater clarity, intention, and fulfillment. One of the most powerful insights we can gain from embracing impermanence is the recognition that our sense of self-worth and identity need not be tied to the external, ever-changing world. So often, we anchor our happiness and sense of stability in things that are beyond our control, whether it's our relationships, our possessions, or our achievements. But when these things inevitably change or fade, we find ourselves adrift, struggling to find meaning and direction. The Stoics challenge us to shift our focus inward, to cultivate a sense of self that is rooted in our inner values and character rather than in external circumstances. This shift in perspective leads to a deeper understanding of what it means to live authentically. When we are no longer bound by the need to control or cling to what is temporary, we are free to live in alignment with our true values. This authenticity is not about adhering to rigid ideals, but about being true to ourselves in a way that is adaptable and responsive to life's changes. It allows us to engage with the world fully, without fear of losing our way when things inevitably change. Another essential aspect of embracing impermanence is the cultivation of a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. When we accept that everything is temporary, we begin to appreciate the richness of each moment and the opportunities it presents. This mindset encourages us to live generously, giving our time, energy, and love freely without the fear of running out or being left with nothing. It teaches us that by sharing what we have, we create connections and experiences that endure beyond the fleeting nature of material things. The Stoics also remind us that impermanence is a call to live with purpose and urgency. Knowing that our time is limited, we are motivated to make the most of it, to act with intention, and to pursue what truly matters. This sense of urgency is not about rushing through life, but about being mindful of how we spend our time and energy. It is about ensuring that our actions are aligned with our deepest values, and that we are making a meaningful impact in the lives of others and in the world around us. As we internalize these lessons, it is important to reflect on how we can live in a way that honors the impermanent nature of life. How can we cultivate a sense of self that is resilient and grounded, even as the world changes around us? What steps can we take to live more authentically in alignment with our values and purpose? And how can we embrace a mindset of abundance, living generously and fully in each moment? By embracing impermanence, we find that life's transience is not something to be feared or resisted, but something to be celebrated and engaged with deeply. It is through this engagement that we discover our true strength, wisdom, and capacity for joy. In accepting the impermanent nature of all things, we open ourselves to a life that is rich in meaning, purpose, and connection. A life that is not diminished by change, but enhanced by it. In the end, the Stoic philosophy teaches us that impermanence is not a threat to our well-being, but a fundamental aspect of the human experience that, when embraced, can lead us to a deeper and more fulfilling way of living. By finding peace in the transient nature of all things, we not only free ourselves from the chains of fear and attachment, but also discover the true essence of what it means to live with clarity, intention, and joy.